Time to discuss the Chicago Bulls.
The Bulls.
Balls up, 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 balls up.
Ever watch Saturday Night Live?
Yes, I do.
Chris Farley. Da Bulls. We're not talking about a 6-peat or a 7-peat. We're talking at least about a 9-peat. We've got Jordan. Jordan was on that video too, which is awesome. But it's not the good days when Michael Jordan was winning championships with the Chicago Bulls. It's actually in a very strange position that Chicago's basketball team is in. Fred Hoiberg, for one, he doesn't seem to be working out too well. Even though I like the hiring, I thought getting Thibs out of there was the right thing to do. Hoiberg, who I had faith in, has really let down the city of Chicago. He's had a lot of injuries to deal with. Oh, I mean, like between Pau Gasol's knee, Derrick Rose's everything. Even though he's been playing pretty well, if Derrick Rose can play the way he's been playing for the next 10 years, like, you've salvaged what could have been a Greg Oden-esque career, even though he had the MVP to his name beforehand. So, a couple elements before we get to anything else. Bulls 1 and 2, and then the Bulls schedule, which we'll go over. The Bulls lost to the Orlando Magic 111-89 on Saturday, dealing their playoff hopes a serious blow. Chicago is now 36-36, 2 games behind the Pistons for the final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Wizards are also lurking right there as well. It continued to say via ESPN's news website, the road doesn't get any easier either. On Monday, the Bulls face an Atlanta Hawks team that is 8-2 in its last 10 games to surge to 3rd in the conference. Bulls forward Mike Dunleavy called this a do-or-die week, but after Saturday's loss, he said there are no easy answers to what ails this team. On to their schedule, because it is brutal down the stretch. The Hawks and the Pacers, the Rockets, the Pistons, which could be the make-or-break game for them, come... is there a date on that one? Saturday, April 2nd. It's the big bold letters right in front of me. And the Milwaukee Bucks. And then I think on the back half of that, they got the Heat and the Cavaliers coming out also. So this was a team last year that almost beat LeBron James' Cavs in the playoffs. It was a great series. I think it went 6 total games. So I don't think it went 7. It was 6. Yeah. 6-game series. It was a great series, though. And they were close. They played well. They played physical. They had a much better chance than the Hawks ever did in that playoff series to dethrone the Cavs. But now, again, injury problems. Jimmy Butler hasn't seen as much playing time, and I know you love Jimmy Butler as well. For instance, when you're watching at least the Bulls and you look at this team, is it weird at least not seeing, like, maybe not in the playoffs?
You just mentioned there, like, this is a team last year. I thought this was a team in December that could potentially have a great potential spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now, I understand that you mentioned the injuries there, like Derrick Rose, but the thing is, when Derrick Rose was that injured, I mean, definitely he adds such a different dynamic to their game, but it seemed collectively they were able to get through some of those tough matches without him. But specifically, I can't remember the exact date, but when Jimmy Butler went down, I remember looking at a lot of the Chicago Bulls blogs, a lot of their fan reaction to it, and they were really taken back because he's a player that collectively brings the team together. I think he's more important than Derrick Rose. I think he's more important to that team as a whole. And ever since that injury, I just thought that they went on like an obvious demise, right? And the Chicago Bulls are a team that I like to watch, and I've been really interested in them. I like to see how Pau Gasol, after I would say a lesser end to his Lakers career, wasn't performing as well. I thought he looked rejuvenated in Chicago Bulls, and I thought that they looked a better collective team. But I think injuries hasn't helped. But again, you just mentioned it there. Coaching, you got to be able to adjust to these injuries. We see other coaches in better positions adjust to certain injuries that you have to overcome as a coach. There's so many games in NBA that you're going to have to be dealt with injuries, and it just depends on how you adjust. And I thought that they've struggled ever since then. I'd still like to see them in the playoffs because I still think they deserve a spot. I think they have been riddled a little bit with injuries, but that's still not the only excuse.
Right, and I like that you make the point as an excuse. Dave Yeager, who, if it wasn't for the Warriors and the Spurs igniting the record or potentially putting the Bulls' record in jeopardy, the 95-96 Bulls, Dave Yeager's the coach of the year. That team lost for the Grizzlies. They lost Marc Gasol. They lost Mike Conley for a long time. Their only star was Zach Randolph. They found a way to rejuvenate Lance Stevenson, of all players. Yeah. Matt Barnes, although causes problems on and off the court, portable player. He makes his team better. His teammates seem to like him. Not Derek Fisher, but his teammates. That's a team that's still going to hold the 5 seed in the Western Conference when everybody, once those 2 guys went down, the Grizzlies are probably going to fall out of the playoff picture. Fred Hoiberg hasn't been able to adjust like Dave Yeager has with his team. And I don't know what's happened to Joakim Noah. please find me Joakim Noah's...
What's his average points again? I think he's...
It's not just so much
averaging minus points.
It's his footwork. Yeah. I don't know what he's doing differently, but Thibs had a way of making him the point center. And we were looking at this guy as one of the top 30 players in the NBA not long ago. Defensively, he was efficient and probably on one of the better defending big men in the game. And offensively, although he's got the ugliest looking jump shot, or whatever you want to call this, in the game, he was making it work. Now you fast forward, and Joakim Noah, healthy or not, is useless. Yeah. Pau Gasol, still portable. We'll never hate on Pau, high IQ player, although his knee has been bad. I think the biggest question for Chicago right now, though, is do you even want to make the playoffs? And that sounds like a weird question because Jimmy Butler is considering undergoing knee surgery. Yeah. And he's going to probably have to in the offseason, but do you want to push this to the point where you want to make the 8 seed to get blown out by the Cavaliers or the 7 seed to probably get crushed by the Raptors? Not a good matchup. They're not getting to the 6. So it's not a good matchup either way for the Bulls. And look, as a fan, of course you want to get to the playoffs, but as a team, as management-wise, I think you got to move on from Fred Hoiberg, and I think 2, you probably want Jimmy Butler to get that knee surgery with over now instead of in 2 or 3 weeks. Even those extra 2 or 3 weeks makes rehab go. You push the calendar up, so you're ready to go for next season. And
this is the difference when the NBA sets itself apart from other sports, right? Because you could, if your morale's down, you're not performing as well, you're lacking in, I don't know, coaching that has to be adjusted. These are all things that could swing a different way on the pendulum when it comes to the playoffs, because when it's like an important, the importance of every game becomes more significant, and you can try and adjust, and if you put a good run together, you could potentially have an upset. But those are some problems for Chicago, but the main problems are injuries, and I think fatigue and squad depth. Those are all things that don't play in your favor when you play in the NBA playoffs, because it's so fast, you have so many games in such a short space of time. You're playing against the same opponent who will see that as a weakness, especially if it's someone like the Cavs or the Raptors, and just tear you apart.
And they do have Doug McBuckets, though, so maybe
maybe
they give Doug McBuckets 20 attempts a game, and he just lights it up like he did for Creighton, or BYU. He was Creighton. Doug McCreighton. Doug McBuckets.
Doug McBuckets.
Bulls fans, where do you think... Actually, that's the question for you. Bulls fans, do you think you guys should be making a push for the playoffs, or should you really just start resting guys, playing your rookies, bring some guys up from the D-League, and play them through the rest of the season? Or do you want to see them make the 8 seed and lose to the Cavs, or the 7 seed and lose to the Raptors, probably the 6 seed, lose to the Celtics? It's bad.
Just lose.
You guys are in a tough position. I feel for you, though, but you did drop 2 games back-to-back to the Knicks. That's not good. Comment below. Make sure to follow Francis at Francis_Maxwell and at JasonRubin91 at TYT Sports on Twitter and on Facebook. We'll see you there.